Hi, everyone. So today we're talking about victim mentality, and this is something that's been requested by one of you out there. We got an email asking us to talk about victim mentality and the whole idea about feeling the victim of whether it has been some disease or a person that did something wrong to you or a number of different things that we start feeling like that we're a victim. And I thought Brenda's insight into this topic is really relevant and really important for us to get some growth from anything that ever happened to us. So let's hear it.
Well, the one thing I always tell people is let go of the victim mentality and become a victor.
Well, let's talk first about what that means. Like, what does victim mentality look like?
Victim mentality is where it's kind of a familiar place. So if somebody had gone through, let's use an illness, let's say perhaps cancer, and they always revert back to, oh, I had cancer, or let's see, now they're clear of cancer, but they always, oh, but I had cancer, oh, but I had cancer, oh, but I'm not in my career anymore because I had cancer, oh, I can't get this job because I had cancer, oh, I can't do this because I had cancer. But the cancer is something the person had but no longer has. But there's a lot of fear to that. Because a lot of people will say, well, I can't let go that I had cancer. I can't move forward. I'm fearful it's going to come back. So it's almost like there's a program in their brain that looping them in, I had cancer, I had cancer, I had cancer. And that keeps them stuck to that energy, keeps them stuck to that trauma. Also, it can be, but I was in a car accident. My back hurts. I'm scared to drive. I'm scared to leave home. I was in a car accident.
Yeah.
Or my husband cheated on me. I'm a victim. My husband cheated on me.
Yeah.
It's those traumas, whether they're physical illnesses, they're emotional distress. It's an accident that was very scary. Could have been a drowning. Oh, but I almost drowned when I was 10. Sometimes you get people who are always repeating, oh, but when I was 10, this happened to me. But you're not 10 anymore.
But don't you think that sometimes that keeps people safe? So if I was 10 and I almost drowned, and now I don't want to go into a lake ever again, does that not keep me safe? Like, is that what I'm telling myself?
Well, it does, but at the same time, you're using that negative belief that says it's not safe to go to water, not safe to go in water. Yes, we have a survival instinct, obviously, but it gets to a point where it's almost unbalanced now that you don't want to go into any water. Water is not going to, you're not going to drown in water if you do it safely, right? We're not saying go jump into the ocean.
Yeah.
But it's not, you don't have to be scared. So you have to realize that sometimes our traumas get hooked in with these negative beliefs. Negative beliefs know what makes you tick and what you're fearful of. So a negative belief is like a conscious energy that goes, I don't want Mary to move forward. I don't want Brenda to move forward. So I'm going to go into her fears. Oh, great. She had a trauma at this age. I'm going to make her think that could happen again, and then my whole life gets halted because I get stuck in this pattern of being a victim of, oh, but this happened to me. Oh, but this happened to me.
But how are we supposed to heal those things that happen to us? Like, sometimes talking about it, and you would say, oh, you're in your victim mentality, but it's like, wait a minute, like that was really a big deal that happened, and I need to talk about it, and maybe I need to talk about it over and over again until I let it out.
Well, that's something people say, oh, but I can't let go of this trauma because it's who I am. I need to honor what happened to me. If I don't honor that, then it's going to happen again. So we play all these crazy tricks on ourselves, right?
Yeah, no, I totally see that.
Yeah, so it's talking about it in therapy, perhaps. But you don't want to be going to therapy for 4 years talking about the same thing. You're not making any progress. But if you're working with someone who says, okay, now let's let this go, let's change the way you see it, then that's not a bad way to do it. But it's also about being in awareness. Now imagine you're in your victim mentality, but, and then I came and said, Mary, stop talking about that, move beyond it. Now either you're going to hear me and say, you know what, you're right, but how?
Yeah.
Or you're going to say, I can't stand that person. I can't stand Brenda. She's trying to move me out of my comfort zone. So now I'm going to avoid her because she means changing. I don't want to change.
Yeah, you're right.
So we can't force someone to come out of victim mentality. Some people stay in that same moment. They get stuck in that moment. And then they wonder, why isn't my life improving?
Oh, so I was going to say, like, what benefit are they getting from being, they must be getting some kind of benefit from being stuck in that moment.
They, at some level, believes being stuck in that moment serves them. Is keeping them safe from the unknown. So, when you have passion and inspiration that's bringing you forward, it's always going to work out. Because that's how your higher self speaks with you, through passion and inspiration. But that negative belief saying, but it's not safe to follow your passion, it's better to stay here in your victim mentality, in your pattern of behavior, because here you're at least safe, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you're not growing, even though people are annoyed listening to you, even though you know you shouldn't stay in there, it feels safer to be here because that feels too scary. So somehow the victim mentality is serving you.
So I just want to pause because that was big what you just said. I feel like that was like this huge aha moment for a lot of people. So your trauma is serving you in some way. You are getting a benefit of feeling safe and you're not growing. So you don't have to change.
That's right. If there's something that is benefiting you, you think whatever this is less scary than moving forward. And that is when, if you have that aha moment, you need to start looking at your negative beliefs. What is it that you're scared of?
Well, most people would say they're scared of that happening again. So they're taking steps. They're telling people about it. They think that that they are actually keeping themselves safe from that ever happening again.
When in fact, the more we talk about something, actually brings it to us.
So it gives it more power.
It gives us more power, right? Gives it more power. So I can use many personal examples. I've been through lots of trauma, but one of my biggest fears was cult energy. This is going to be a bit of a crazy example, but it was big for me. I was attacked by a cult. They almost took my life in 2020. But I was helping a client who was trying to escape. Well, that was one of my biggest fears. When I finally got out of that, it took about 3 months, there was a part of me that said, I'm never going to do healing work again. Because when I worked with that client, they brought in the most horrific teaching lesson I've ever had. And I was scared. I was really scared. My family suffered, I suffered. And I could have stayed there and decided that's it. But I sat there quietly one day saying, what should I do? I'm terrified from what happened. And I told people, well, did you know that I was attacked by a cult? Did you know I was telling my family that we know you were, but you made it. And it wasn't until I was speaking with another healer out in Sedona who said, Brenda, not many people would have survived what you survived. So use it as the lesson that it is and know how powerful you are that you overcame it. And use that power within you to move forward and break the cycle. So I don't talk about that incident over and over. I may bring it up as an example like I am now, but I don't have that emotional tie to it because I've released it. Now imagine somebody who has cancer. That's a very scary thing to have. They talk about it, and they join support groups, and they talk about it, and they talk about it. Now, I'm not saying that support groups are wrong, but if you can look at that event, I had cancer, I had this disease. That disease doesn't define who you are now. You overcame it. So you are no longer that version of that person who was sick. You're now a healthy person. So if you take that new body, that new mindset, and say, it's going to sound weird, thank you, disease. Thank you, cult attack. Thank you, trauma. You have taught me so much, and I overcame it. And I'm going to use that power that my body healed, or my mind healed, and I'm going to use that personal power and work on overcoming my fears every day to move into a new trajectory. And now, instead of focusing on my trauma, which I could have easily done as well, I said, when it popped into my head, I would say, okay, but I'm not there anymore. I'm going to move forward. Wherever we look is where we go. Positivity brings positivity. Fear, anger, victim mentality brings more of that.
I feel like you have a real passion for this. This is like, we've hit on something that I think that you are really good at helping your clients with, is identifying the trauma and then helping them see it in a different light, that is growth and change and supported change. And I think that's one of your strengths for sure.
Yeah, and when I'm talking with someone about their victim mentality and they start to cry, I know I'm getting through. Crying, especially when someone's talking like that, is breaking a negative belief. It's actually a chemical reaction that's breaking it. And sometimes people will go away and be a little bit angry. How dare Brenda say that I can't stay? I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying look at it in a different way, a different perspective. But if they want to stay where they are and they're not growing, and I'm opening a door, let's go. Your higher self is begging you to move forward. Let's see this as a challenge you overcame instead of you being a victim to it.
Yes.
That's how people can handle that conversation. And I talk to them as gently as I need to or as strong as I need to. But generally, after those conversations, people will say, I see it now. And then they'll ask, but how do I stay out of the victim mentality? And that comes to being aware of it. Awareness is so powerful. Because once you see a pattern of behavior, a pattern of thought, it's no longer a pattern. Now it's a choice. So when you wake up in the morning, what do I want to be? Now, I'm not saying don't go and be a support person. But when you're a support person in, say, a cancer group, don't keep saying, I had cancer. You don't have cancer anymore. I overcame it. I'm doing this, and I have all these great things, and I'm letting go every day of the fear it's going to come back. Because there's that fear, oh, it might come back. It might come back. Yeah, anybody can get anything at any time. But I'm not going to be binded to the fear in that victim mentality. As the fears come in, I'm going to acknowledge them, do a process to let go of the fear, and move forward. And over time, you start to change your perception. You start to change, And then that record that plays that fear slowly goes away, and then it just turns to the other side of the album where I rarely even think about the attacks I've had, the traumas I've been through. And when they do come up, because as you're doing this, people will say, hey, Brenda, do you remember what you went through? Brenda, do you remember this? I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that forever. Now, what I do with those people is I say, you know what, that is no longer who I am. Those experiences, I honor them because they brought me to where I am today. So if you want to chat with me and hang out with me, let's forward talk.
Yeah, so it's not part of your identity. It's not part of who you are anymore.
No.
Yeah.
But there were stages in my life I went through. So sometimes we call in these crazy experiences for the learning lessons, but we're not supposed to get stuck in the learning lesson.
Right.
That's where we get stuck.
You heard her passion here today, folks. If this resonated with you, if you feel like you're in the same loop of some victim mentality, reach out for some coaching, some energy work, and try to move on into your new chapter up ahead.
Yeah, because we all deserve it.
Yeah, we
Be
do.
free.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If you have any questions, please send us your questions, comments to www.sobrilliant.ca. We always love hearing from you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us.
If you have any questions or comments, visit us at sobrilliant.ca.
Sending you lots of love and light. Until next time.